We're back. Sean Shepard is our guest, and we just left off with the idea that people, Paul said that people really don't notice a sales tax of 6 or 7%.
And I disagree. I think people do notice it. It might not be enough because it's been gradually ratcheted up. I mean, I remember 7 or 8 years ago we didn't have a sales tax. Now, every time I go to a restaurant, I pay that 7%, and then I see the extra 2% on there, so I can pay for government-subsidized corporate sports. That it just rubs me the wrong way. But there's a couple of things here. Right now, even with an income tax, you have people who you have an underground economy. You have people who move their jobs and their businesses offshore because they can keep the money overseas. There's trillions of dollars overseas right now that corporations have sitting there that they don't dare bring back to the U.S. because they're immediately hit with that corporate tax. If they want to bring it here and put it to use, building factories, hiring people, and those sort of things. You've got individuals who spend hundreds of dollars at the low end, thousands and thousands of dollars at the high end to hire tax professionals and experts to try and find every single loophole, every single way they can avoid paying taxes.
So you would deprive classmates of ours from law school who became tax lawyers of jobs?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like nothing more than to see fewer IRS agents, fewer tax lawyers. I mean, and I can give you just a personal example. I had a year where I purchased a business, and it cost me more money just to have the taxes prepared than I made that year, first year in business.
Okay, but let's go back to the point you were making 2 points. One, a statement I want to make, and that is not meaning to reveal my age, but I remember when sales tax was just coming in this state, or at least it seemed to me it was like 2%. And people had license plates on the fronts of their cars that said Indiana Land of Taxes. They were really upset about it, but then now here in Marion County, when you buy something in a restaurant, for example, and you've got the Colts tax, the tax, whatever it is that they're saying about the sports, that's one thing. Secondly, you made reference to doing away with IRS agents, and you're still going to have enforcement.
Right.
Agency.
Right. Well, the great thing about that is that most of the states already have a sales tax collection mechanism, an agency, and people who detect and deal with fraud. What the fair tax does is it actually compensates the states 0.25% to assist with the collection and enforcement of the tax. So since that infrastructure is already in place, there's no reason to duplicate that at the federal level.
Yeah, but since you're taxing goods that are new, aren't you going to be inhibiting the production, manufacture, and sale of new goods?
Are you suggesting that we might make better economic use of the resources that we already have and that it might be good for the environment?
Or a different way of saying that is, a kid is going to be wearing his older brother's hand-me-downs from his older brother for some period of time. I mean, that's really...
Well, another way to look at that is with all of the money that gets freed up. I mean, right now we spend in this country somewhere between $300 and $600 billion just in compliance, just trying to pay our taxes. Not paying them, just trying to figure out what we owe. And if you take that money and put it back into the economy in other productive ways, if we spread the base, the thing about the fair taxes, right now, you talk about the underground economy and people trying to not pay their fair share. Well, think about the drug dealer right now, or even someone who's here, an undocumented immigrant, who is maybe not paying taxes. Well, they go off and they earn their money. A lot of times it's all in cash, and they go and they do whatever they want. And they're not paying taxes when they earn or spend that money. Now, with this system, we've spread that tax base out so that tourists, illegal aliens, the drug dealer, when they go and they buy things, they are contributing to the tax base. So the other thing we also have is that prices will probably come down slightly because all of the embedded taxes that the corporations pay. Well, I say that wrong way. Corporations don't pay taxes because they don't have a printing press. Everyone, you get a lot of people, especially on the left, I think, who say, well, corporations aren't paying their fair share of taxes. Well, it's not like you go and you buy your product from the corporation and then whatever they owe in taxes, they got a printing press and they get to just make it up. They collected those taxes in the price of every product they sold. So when you add it all up, most people don't even really know what they're paying in taxes. Ronald Reagan gave a speech in the 60s where, actually it might have been the 70s, where he suggested that the taxes that were embedded in a loaf of bread, by the time you bought it at the store, doubled the cost.
Well, and I would doubt anything that, even though Ronald Reagan was an economics major at Dixon College in Illinois, I would doubt anything he said of a factual nature about just about anything. Because when he took office in 1980, the top 1% in this country in terms of income made 10% of the income. Made 10% of the income. At the end of that decade, by 1990, that top 1% owned or made 15%. Today, that top 1% makes 20%. And that's not because they've come up with anything innovative or really kind of keen and neat whereby everybody has benefited.
You don't think so? You don't think recently departed Steve Jobs came up with anything innovative that helped advance society? Or Bill Gates or Warren Buffett?
Okay, wait. Okay. You just threw out 3 examples. Jobs, yeah. Gates, no. Buffett, maybe.
I might agree with you on Gates, but I had to throw that out there.
That's like Gates did a good job of copying other stuff, other people's stuff, and trying to make it better.
Well, he tried to make it
better.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you're talking about isolating that much income into that small percentage,
but that is always going to happen. We could take all the money, all the assets in the entire country right now, and we could collect them all in a big pool, and we could evenly hand those assets out. And within a generation, they would be redistributed so that 80% of the wealth was concentrated with 20% of the people.
Okay.
That has more to do with how people think and what they do with their spare time and their value systems.
And that's
than anything else.
No, that is not what would happen. Well, wait a second. If you're going to say all things being as they are right now, we redistribute the wealth, yeah, you're right, because you've got a rigged system right now. But if you were to take a period of time where you made sure that you had the highest quality education possible for kids, everything would be free in terms of education, all the way, if you're good enough to be a medical doctor all the way through med school, you're not going to be facing any student loans or any debt. That's all paid for. If everybody has an equal start and equal chance at learning and acquiring knowledge and skills and everything, I think that then you say, okay, we're redistributing the wealth. Then you'd have people with a different conscience, and they wouldn't be so intent on gathering everything together.
Well, I think you bring up one good thing that's worth mentioning back to the fair tax is that education expenses are the one loophole in the fair tax that aren't taxed. So your tuition, university, your books, those sort of things would not have the tax applied to them. The second thing too is I think a lot of the reason the system is gamed, as you point out, is because of government. It's not because corporations are gaming the system, other than with their ties to government. A good example, we talk about the sports teams, right? I mean, you got a billionaire who has a corporation. They are in the sports entertainment business, and they came and had the taxpayers pay for their multi-$100-million corporate headquarters and playing facility. If you and I, if we all got together, we went out and we started any other kind of business tomorrow, even if we were going to hire 5,000 people, and we went to the taxpayers and said, we're going to tax you every time you buy food to pay for our corporate headquarters, we'd be laughed out of the room.
Well, first of all, I would dispute that that's entertainment, especially this season. We're coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana, and this is not entertainment this year, although the Colts have a perfect record. The other example of sports welfare in this city is the Pacers. The Indiana Pacers, and so we're talking tales of woe. And you're right. we would be laughed out if we were to approach government, but I don't believe that it's government's job to fund sports franchises. But to go back now just a couple of minutes to something you mentioned about incomes that are not taxed, and you're talking about drug dealers. I personally believe all drugs should be legalized. Now, if we do that, then that no longer becomes a problem. Whereas under the fair tax, if somebody is going out with no obvious means of income, the police are going to be watching for a person to be driving a Lamborghini or a Corvette or whatever would be, I keep saying Lamborghini today, or a Corvette to go to an American-made car. Are they American-made? Do they still make Corvettes?
Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Okay. I want to make sure I get that right. But the narcotics agents are going to watch that stuff. They watch for conspicuous consumption because they track that down to the people.
Sure.
So that the fair tax wouldn't have that advantage there.
Well, it wouldn't have that advantage from what perspective? Than being on track.
The big drug dealers.
So we might have, or anyone. So you might actually have an increase in personal liberty in this country as a result of the fair tax.
No. What you'd have is they'd be watching the means by which people would be spending money, and people would be punished for actually exercising that liberty.
I'm not sure I follow what that has to do with the drug dealers.
Sure.
Because they're going to pay the tax when they buy the Lamborghini or the Mercedes.
Yeah, because they're going to be more likely then to buy these consumer goods. Is your idea is that, well, we're going to be getting money off of them. They'll be able to do that, and so we'll be making money off the drug dealers, which we wouldn't be on their income.
Right.
Well, no, they're going to get nailed when they go out and make a conspicuous consumption purchase.
Well, don't they happen now?
It very well could. I want to focus on the effect of a consumption-based tax would have on the economy. And you talk about cars. I don't know how much the average car costs now, $25,000, $26,000. If you're paying a 37% state, federal sales tax on that, people aren't going to buy new cars. They're going to buy used cars where they're not paying any tax at all. Ultimately, the only people who are going to be buying the new cars are the very wealthy people.
Or the drug dealers.
Well, hold on. Well, right now, if you want to buy that, how much money do you have to earn after taxes to buy that $25,000 car?
How much money do I have to earn after?
Yeah, to be able to save $25,000 or make the payments on it.
Yeah.
But to have $25,000, you probably have to earn $40,000 or $50,000. Right? By the time it's all said and done with. So there's really not that much difference.
I think part of the argument of the fair tax is, you're going to have more money, and then you're going to be more willing to make these purchases. I think what happens is the higher you raise the tax, people try to avoid it, regardless of how much money they got in their pocket. I don't know that people are going to say, I got more money now, I'm going to go buy a car.
This country was founded on the basis of not wanting to pay taxes.
This is true.
No, it
was something like a 3% tax on tea. That we've talked about the Boston Tea Party. I mean, it was not huge.
And Britain cut it in half. They cut the tax in half. And then Shays' Rebellion was over taxation. People here don't want to pay taxes. So there's a natural disinclination to paying taxes.
And part of the argument is that...
we've got about 20 seconds.
That, go ahead and wrap up, Mark.
We're at the end of this segment. We'll be back in just a couple of seconds here. Thanks very much. We're at the end of the second segment.